Ladies and gentlemen few, you've been carrying this weight for a while now. You've been smiling, showing up, being strong, but on the inside there's a storm, the kind of storm that doesn't show up on radar but rattles the soul. You've been trying to keep it together when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. And I know how easy it is to believe that maybe this is it, that maybe the chaos, the stress, the pain is permanent. But listen to me, lean in close, because there's something stirring in the tension you feel. There's a shift happening behind the scenes, and I need you to know. It's not punishment, it's preparation. That pressure you're feeling, it's not just there to break you, it's trying to birth something in you. Because what looks like stress on the surface is actually the groundwork for something big, something sacred, something life-changing. See, stress doesn't come knocking unless something valuable is inside. Diamonds don't form without pressure. Babies aren't born without labor. Growth doesn't come without discomfort, and elevation, true elevation, only comes when we're willing to be stretched past what's comfortable. That stress you're dealing with is stretching you into someone who can handle the blessing that's on its way. You thought this season was about survival, but it's really about expansion. It's about elevation. It's about learning how to hold the weight of something greater. You've been walking around thinking you're at your breaking point, but what if I told you you're actually at your birthing point? What if everything that's trying to shake you is actually sent to shape you? The delay you feel, the disappointment, it's not denial. It's a divine detour. Sometimes the blessing takes longer to arrive because it's growing larger than you expected. You're over here praying for peace, and what's coming is overflow. You're praying for a little relief, and what's coming is restoration. You wanted a breakthrough. What's coming is a transformation, and I get it. You're tired. You've cried in the shower. You've screamed in your car. You've buried your head in the pillow and whispered prayers you didn't have words for. But let me tell you something. That silent fight, it didn't go unnoticed. That quiet perseverance, it's powerful. Sometimes the loudest faith is the kind that whispers, I'm still here, even when everything says you shouldn't be. So don't let the stress make you forget who you are. Don't let the pressure make you forget what you're made of. There's resilience in you that you haven't even tapped into yet. There's power in your persistence. You've been navigating storms with grace, holding broken pieces together with trembling hands, and still, you show up. Still, you love, still, you hope. That's not weakness, that's strength, that's courage, that's faith in motion, and I know you've been asking why it had to be this hard, why you had to go through that heartbreak, that loss, that betrayal, that confusion. But hear me, every piece of it is being woven together for a blessing you didn't see coming. Every tear has been watering the soil for something beautiful to bloom. Nothing is wasted. Not the pain, not the confusion, not the waiting. It's all being used to build the platform where your blessing is about to stand. You haven't missed it. You didn't mess it up. You're not too late. You're right on schedule for something divine to erupt in your life. This stress you're carrying, it's not the end of your story. It's the turning point. The tension is a sign that something's shifting, that the chapter is about to flip. So I dare you to hold on. I dare you to believe again. I dare you to look at that mountain and remind it that you've climbed before and you'll do it again. I dare you to show up like the blessing's already on the way, because when you move like it's coming, you create space for it to arrive. When you praise in the middle of the pressure, you confuse every force that tried to break you. You don't need to wait until the situation changes to believe that it's changing. Sometimes you gotta celebrate in the stress. Dance in the tension. Speak life in the chaos, because the blessing isn't just what shows up when the storm ends. It's how you grow while it's raging. The blessing is who you're becoming while you wait. This thing is turning around. That burden is about to become a blessing. That stress is about to produce something sacred. You're not just going to come out of this. You're going to rise, shine, and walk into rooms that your pain prepared you for. You're going to step into spaces where your name was already whispered, your presence already needed, your gift already recognized. So keep showing up. Keep walking with grace. Keep resting in the knowing that what's meant for you is already yours. You don't have to chase it. You just have to be ready when it arrives, and hear me. It's arriving, not a maybe, not a someday. It's soon, sooner than you think. Because right when it starts to feel the heaviest, the darkest, the most overwhelming, that's when the breakthrough shows up. Not to rescue you, but to reveal you, to show you that you were always more powerful than you knew. You didn't survive all of this to stay stuck in stress. You survived because there's a blessing too big to carry with fear, too bold to walk in with insecurity, too sacred to handle with self-doubt. So shake it off. Fix your crown. Breathe deep. You've got this. Because the blessing isn't coming to relieve you of the weight. It's coming to reward the one who carried it. Stress has a way of making us question everything. Our strength, our purpose, our direction. It creeps in quietly, and then suddenly it's everywhere. It shows up in your mind when you're trying to sleep, in your body when you're too tense to rest, in your heart when you wonder if all this effort is even worth it. But what if stress isn't the enemy we've made it out to be? What if, instead of being a sign that something's wrong, it's a signal that something is forming? See, the stress you feel is not punishment. It's not some consequence meant to tear you down, it's preparation. You're not being picked on. You're being positioned. Positioned for something that's going to require a stronger version of you, a more focused, more grounded, more resilient you. And in order to become that version, something in you has to shift. And growth like that doesn't happen in comfort zones. It doesn't happen when everything is easy and smooth. It happens in the tension, in the stretch, in the strain. You're being prepared for something that will need you to be able to carry more than you're carrying now. And that doesn't come without some pressure, but pressure is not always a problem. It's a process. Think about it. Everything valuable endures some kind of transformation. Gold has to go through the fire. Diamonds are formed under intense pressure. Even seeds have to break before they can grow roots. So if you feel like you're under fire, under pressure, breaking open, maybe it's because you're next in line for something precious. Stress can feel like an attack, but more often than not, it's a sign that you're outgrowing where you are. You're being stretched into new capacity. You're being pulled into purpose, and that's not easy. It's not always pretty, but it is necessary, because the level you're stepping into will require a version of you that stress is currently shaping. You don't get to where you're going by staying who you've been. Now, I know it's tempting to want it all to stop, to pray it away, to cry out for immediate relief, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those prayers are honest and they matter, but while you wait for the release, don't miss the revelation. What is this stress showing you? What is it developing in you? Sometimes stress reveals what's out of alignment. Sometimes it teaches you how to set boundaries. Sometimes it teaches you to let go of things you were never meant to carry. And sometimes it simply shows you that you are far stronger than you thought. Preparation doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like standing still while everything inside of you is being rewired. Sometimes it looks like exhaustion because your faith is being stretched. Sometimes it looks like silence because wisdom is settling in. Don't despise that process. It's not punishment. It's purpose at work. You are not in this season by accident. That stress you're navigating has meaning. It has weight, yes, but it also has worth, because it's carving out room for something you didn't even know you were capable of handling. And when you come out of this, you won't just be blessed. You'll be ready for the blessing. Not just to receive it, but to sustain it, to hold it with grace, lead with power, and move with confidence. Stress didn't come to destroy you. It came to prepare you, and the preparation is working. Pressure has a way of making you feel like you're being crushed, like everything is closing in on you, like you don't have room to breathe, to think, to just be, and it's easy, so easy, to believe that pressure is a sign of weakness, a sign that you're not doing something right. But let me tell you something that might just shift your whole perspective. Pressure is not sent to break you. It's sent to build power in you. The power you need to carry what's coming doesn't show up overnight. It's formed in seasons like this, when life feels heavy, when you're being pulled in 100 directions, when the expectations are high and the energy is low. That's where power is born, not in the applause, not in the comfort, but in the pressure. Because pressure reveals what's inside of you, and then it refines it. Think about it. Nobody trains in a room full of pillows. No champion was built on ease. When a muscle is being strengthened, it's not just used, it's tested. It's torn just a little so it can rebuild stronger, and your soul, your heart, your calling, they work the same way. You're being tested right now, not because you're weak, but because there's strength in you that needs to be awakened. There's a deeper well of power that stress and pressure are digging out of you. You wouldn't be under this much pressure if what you were carrying wasn't valuable. You wouldn't feel the heat if you weren't in the middle of transformation. The enemy doesn't come for what's empty. He comes for what's full. Full of promise, full of purpose, full of potential. So when you start to feel like everything's coming at you, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're becoming. Becoming takes work. Becoming takes time. Becoming takes pressure. But becoming is worth it. Because the pressure that's surrounding you is producing a version of you that is bold, grounded, and unshakable. The power that's rising in you won't be the kind that needs to prove anything. It will speak for itself. It'll be the kind of power that walks into rooms and shifts atmospheres, the kind that leads without needing validation. The kind that knows its worth even when no one else does. Sometimes we confuse pressure for punishment because it hurts, it's uncomfortable, it feels unfair, but purpose and pain often come wrapped in the same package. You're not being punished. You're being prepared, and not just for any moment, but for your moment. That moment where everything finally clicks, where doors open that used to be locked, where you start moving in rooms you used to dream about. That moment is coming, but you've got to let the pressure do its work. You may be tired, you may be over it, but don't give up in the press. Don't tap out just because it's hard. That pressure is pushing out doubt. It's pushing out fear. It's pushing out the old version of you that was too small for the blessing that's on the way, and in its place, strength, courage, power. You're not crumbling, you're charging up. You're not falling apart, you're leveling up. That shift you feel in your spirit, that tension, it's transformation. It's the sacred tension of someone stepping into something bigger than they've ever seen. And when that moment comes, you'll look back on this pressure not with regret, but with gratitude, because it didn't break you, it built you. Waiting is one of the hardest things to do, especially when your heart is full of expectation and your life feels like it's stuck in pause mode. You've prayed, you've planned, you've pushed, and still, nothing. Doors haven't opened, opportunities haven't shown up, the shift you were hoping for hasn't arrived, and somewhere in that silence, it's easy to start questioning everything. To wonder if maybe the yes you believed for has turned into a permanent no. But delay is not denial, it never was. There's a timing at play that you can't always see. A rhythm, a divine order that doesn't operate on your schedule but always works in your favor. When things don't happen when you expect them to, it doesn't mean they won't happen at all. It just means they're still being prepared. It means the space around you and inside you is still being shaped to carry what you asked for. Because the truth is, some blessings are too big to be rushed. They require a foundation that can sustain them, and sometimes that foundation is still being poured while you're pacing the floor wondering where the promise is. You want the outcome, but there's something in the process that's just as necessary. The waiting doesn't mean you're forgotten. It means you're being formed into someone who can handle the weight of what's coming. Formed into someone who doesn't crumble under pressure but stands tall when the moment finally arrives. Delay has a purpose. It protects, it refines, it reveals. There are some things you were ready for in your heart, but not ready for in your habits. Some doors that would have opened to your destruction instead of your destiny, had they come too soon. And though it's frustrating, though it tests every ounce of your patience, that delay is a layer of grace covering your process. It's not rejection, it's redirection. In the waiting, you learn to trust beyond what you see. You learn to listen more closely, move more intentionally, and speak with clarity. You stop chasing every shiny thing and start aligning with what's real. That alignment, that maturing, is the real miracle, because the blessing will come. But what good is the blessing if it finds you unprepared, unstable, and unsure? There's a version of you that exists on the other side of delays, stronger, wiser, more grounded. And that's who the blessing is coming for. Not the you that's anxious in the silence, but the you who decided to grow in the dark. The you who showed up faithfully when nothing was moving. The you who kept building even when it looked like nothing was coming. That's the version of you that will thrive, not just survive, when the blessing finally arrives. Because the delay refined your character. It cleaned out what couldn't come with you. It silenced the noise so you could hear your own voice again. And in that stillness, you discovered that what you were waiting on wasn't just a breakthrough. It was a becoming. So don't let the delay deceive you. Don't let the slow pace make you question the destination. Timing is everything, and just because you don't see movement doesn't mean movement isn't happening. The roots are growing deep so the fruit can last. The preparation is still unfolding so the promise can stand tall. You haven't been denied, you've been divinely timed. There's something powerful about wait. Not just physical weight, but emotional weight, spiritual weight, the weight of responsibility, pressure, decisions, expectations. That weight you've been carrying, it's not invisible, it's been heavy, it's been stretching you, pulling on you, exhausting you. Some days you've had to carry it in silence because people see your strength but not your struggle. They see your smile, but they don't see the tears that come after, and yet you carry it. You wake up and you show up, even when you're weary. What you may not realize is that every ounce of that weight is being measured. Every long night, every silent cry, every sacrifice, every act of obedience when you didn't feel like it. It's not going unnoticed, because the blessing that's on the way has to match the weight you've carried. Not because you earned it through pain, but because what you've been through has prepared you to hold something greater. There are some blessings that don't show up until you've proven to yourself that you can carry more than you thought you could. Not because you needed to prove your worth, but because your capacity had to grow. What you're about to walk into requires a different level of endurance, maturity, grace, and perspective. And every burden, every pressure point, every tear has been expanding your capacity. You've been carrying things that try to crush you, and yet you're still standing. That's strength, that's growth, that's power. So don't think for 1 second that it's all been for nothing. The weight didn't just make you tired, it made you ready. And when the blessing comes, it's not going to feel like a random win. It's going to feel like divine alignment. It's going to make sense in a way that makes you exhale and say, now I see why I had to carry all of that. You're not just going to receive anything. You're going to receive something equally yoked to what you've endured. Something that doesn't just feel like relief, but feels like reward. Something that doesn't just take the weight off your shoulders, but fills your soul. The kind of blessing that honors the quiet fight, the lonely battles, the moments when you almost gave up but didn't. Because blessings aren't always about beauty, they're about balance. About making sure that what you're stepping into doesn't just lift you up, but fits the version of you that was formed in the fire. That's why you had to go through some things alone. That's why certain people couldn't come with you. That's why some doors closed even when you were ready to walk through them, because the weight had to shape you, it had to humble you, it had to strengthen you, so when the blessing arrives, you don't just see it as a gift, you see it as a mirror. A reflection of who you became along the way. The load you've been carrying is not the end of the story. It's the setup, it's the process, it's the preparation, and what's coming next won't feel foreign or overwhelming. It'll feel familiar because your soul has already made space for it. The blessing will make you look back and realize that the wait was worth it. Every hard day, every unseen effort, every night you cried and still kept going. It's all adding up to something that fits the weight you've been trusted to carry. There's something sacred about the edge. the edge of breakthrough, the edge of change, the edge of something new. It's that moment where you can feel something coming, but you can't quite see it yet. You feel stretched, anxious, maybe even a little disconnected. You're tired, emotionally drained, running on faith and fumes, and yet, deep down, there's a whisper, a still, small knowing that something is shifting. Something is close. Your breakthrough is not far off. It's closer than it feels. This is the part where it gets the hardest. This is the part where the enemy throws everything at you, not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. Because what's on the other side of this pressure is a version of you that can no longer be manipulated by fear or held hostage by your past. And right before that version of you steps into the light, it gets heavy. That resistance you're feeling, that's not a sign to quit. It's a signal to prepare. When things feel the most chaotic, when life feels the most uncertain, it's often a sign that something's about to break open. Not in a way that destroys, but in a way that releases. There's a release coming for every moment you've felt stuck, for every time you poured into people who didn't pour back, for every seed you planted in silence. For every time you had to rebuild from nothing with no one cheering you on. You've been showing up when it didn't make sense, believing when nothing looked like it was changing, moving forward even when your heart felt like quitting. And that kind of consistency doesn't go unrewarded. That kind of faith, it moves things, it unlocks things. You may not have seen the results yet, but the heavens have already taken note. The groundwork has been laid. The preparation is in motion, and sometimes what you're waiting on is just waiting for you to hold your position, not to strive harder, but to stand stronger, not to figure it all out, but to remain faithful. Because there's a blessing headed your way that's looking for the version of you that didn't quit. The enemy wants you to believe that nothing's happening, that all your prayers are floating in the air unanswered, that all your labor has been in vain, but let me tell you the truth. Things move in the spirit before they ever show up in the natural. Just because you haven't seen the shift doesn't mean the shift isn't in motion. Your breakthrough is closer than the doubt trying to distract you, closer than the fear trying to paralyze you, closer than the silence trying to make you believe you've been forgotten. Breakthroughs don't come with warning signs. They don't always come with clarity. Sometimes they come right in the middle of confusion, right in the middle of exhaustion, and all they ask from you is that you don't fold. You've come too far, survived too much, grown too deep to turn back now. This version of you was built for this moment, so don't give up 5 minutes before it happens. Don't retreat just because it's uncomfortable. This is not the time to second. Guess the assignment. This is the time to lean in, to stay ready, to expect the blessing even before you see the evidence, because what's coming is going to feel like peace after a storm, like clarity after confusion, like purpose after pain. And when it hits, it'll make sense why it took so long, why it stretched you, why it didn't come earlier, because you weren't just waiting on the blessing. The blessing was waiting on you to be ready to receive it. And now you are. Sometimes life takes you through seasons where nothing feels familiar anymore. The way things used to work suddenly doesn't work. The routines, the relationships, the rhythm of your days, they all start to feel off. And it's in those moments that you start to question everything. You wonder if you missed it, if you took a wrong turn somewhere, if you're falling behind while everyone else seems to be finding their stride. But what if what you're calling confusion is really transition? What if you're not lost? You're just in the middle of a shift. You can feel when something is changing. Even if nothing around you looks different yet, there's a stirring inside of you. A quiet discomfort that doesn't have a name but won't let you settle. That's how you know you're not stuck. You're evolving. You're outgrowing what no longer serves you. And even though it feels uncertain, it's holy. Because becoming who you're meant to be always requires letting go of who you used to be. In these in-between seasons, it's easy to feel like everything is falling apart, but what if it's actually falling into place? What if the things that are shifting are making room for something that fits better, something aligned with who you're becoming? See, the old patterns, the old mindsets, even the old relationships. They served you once, but now you're in a place where they can't sustain you anymore, and rather than being frustrated with what's leaving, learn to bless it, thank it, because it brought you this far, but it can't take you where you're going. This kind of shift doesn't always come with clarity. It often comes with silence. You may not have all the answers, but that doesn't mean you're without direction. Sometimes silence is the space where your spirit gets stronger, where your discernment sharpens, where your confidence in yourself grows, not because of external validation, but because you learn to trust your own voice again, that voice that's been buried under noise, under expectations, under pressure. But now it's getting louder, it's rising. You're in a recalibration season, a season where you may have to detach from certain things to reconnect with your true self, and that detachment might hurt. It might feel like isolation, but it's actually protection, because when something big is about to be birthed through you, distraction has to be removed, noise has to be quieted, and clarity has to be made room for. You're not breaking down. You're being refined, and even though it may feel like no one understands this version of your journey, you are not alone. What you're walking through is sacred. It's not meant to be rushed. Don't be in a hurry to fix it. Let the transition do its work. Let it teach you. Let it stretch you. Let it reintroduce you to the power, the grace, the brilliance that's been sitting inside of you all along. You're shifting into a season where you no longer chase peace, you become it, where you no longer strive for worth, you own it, where your presence no longer adjusts to the room, you bring the shift with you. And it all begins here, in the quiet, uncomfortable, unfamiliar space you're in right now. That space is not a mistake, it's a mirror. It's showing you that you've outgrown where you were, and you're being prepared for something far more expansive. So if it feels like you don't fit anymore, that's not a flaw. It's confirmation. Confirmation that the old you is making space for the evolved you. The version of you that is no longer performing but walking in purpose. The version of you that doesn't just survive, but leads, creates, and transforms. The shift is here, and so is your moment. Everything you've walked through, every heavy day, every unanswered question, every silent prayer, has been building something deep within you. You didn't come this far just to collapse under the weight of stress or pressure. You came this far to see it turn into something greater. This is not the season where you break down. This is the season where everything breaks open. Your tears have watered the ground, your endurance has tilled the soil, and now the harvest that's been hidden is getting ready to show up in ways that will blow your mind. You thought you were barely holding it together, but what you were really doing was holding space for your transformation. The stress wasn't here to destroy you. It was the stretching before the blessing. The pressure wasn't your end. It was the proving ground for your next level. And now every delay, every detour, every door that didn't open makes sense. Because what's coming to you doesn't look like the pain you walked through. It looks like the purpose it pushed you toward. You are not the same person who started this journey. You are wiser, stronger, softer in the right places, and tougher in the ones that matter. And now you're not just ready to receive. You're ready to reign. So when the blessing arrives, and it will, don't be surprised, be ready, because this was always more than survival. It was preparation for the promise. Your stress is not your ending. It's the beginning of your biggest blessing.